Pre-wipe events have already started, and we're about to see a wipe coming soon in the next few weeks. So what is there to expect? Well, one of the things is PMC Karma and a new boss called Partisan. Now, as far as we know, PMC Karma is going to work in some sort of way where extract camping or things similar to that nature will make this boss hunt you down because you have a low PMC Karma. Basically, the boss will go around and place traps on dead bodies and loot containers in order to kill you. That's all we know for now, and obviously things could get more complicated during the wipe or with the wipe. We don't really know too much about it so far. However, with that in mind, with future updates coming, will PMC Karma go down the route where if you kill your own faction, you will lose this rep? And that would be a bad thing because it would discourage PvP, and I don't think anyone would really want that. However, with that said, I'll go more into the downsides of how this system can go, and actually what I think would be an interesting thing that they could add. While editing this video, I forgot to mention that what I'm about to say is only relevant if they add PMC Karma, where if you kill someone, you lose rep. I personally think the best option is not to add PMC Karma in this way, and what I say next is if they do end up implementing this system, I feel like this is the only way it could effectively work. The way that I think that this system can work in a really interesting way is that each faction would have their own radio communication within the game. And basically how this would work is it'd be kind of like voice chat in Tarkov Arena where you just talk to your team, but your team is throughout the raid and it's your faction. Now you would lose karma by killing your faction, but this would lead you down new routes in the game, and obviously this would have more implications when the storyline is added. Basically, you'd go down a separate quest path than if you would stay loyal to your PMC faction, and possibly one of the endings is through gaining reputation with your faction and they just bail you out of Tarkov. And then maybe if you have bad karma, you would get bailed out by Lightkeeper or one of the other traders. That is one route that they could go for the storyline. So basically, you just get different quest paths depending on what route you go. So if you have good PMC karma, you stay loyal to your faction. If you don't, you become sort of a rogue and you kind of do your own thing. With this though, you would lose the status of your radio and you'd no longer be able to communicate with your faction during the raids. I think this would be interesting as you don't know who is a rogue, who is loyal, and who is the opposite faction. So you kind of have three separate factions then in each raid, but everybody at the start of the wipe would start out as loyal to their faction. So basically in the system, you would have a faction radio that you could use to communicate with people in each raid in your faction. If you lose PMC karma to a certain extent, you lose that radio and possibly you head down a different quest line. I think it'd be interesting as it could lead to large groupings of members of a faction. I think this would be the best way to implement PMC karma because you'd be able to communicate with the people in your PMC faction. And this would eliminate the confusion of, oh, is this bear? Is this USEC? You'd just be like, yo, you a USEC, you a bear, or whatever. And then if they don't respond, you kill them and whatever. You lose rep, you don't. Obviously, there could be people that mislead you and, you know, just like with Scav Karma, they just, take your loot or whatever. But I think it would be interesting because it could lead to large fights, like 8v8 on Streets of Tarkov or something crazy like that, where a group of bears run into a huge group of USECs and whatnot. So it's kind of like a giant squad, or it could lead to people, helping each other out, and it could be helpful for solos who don't have someone to squad up with. And you could just squad up with someone in the raid. Obviously now some downsides to this system is queuing up with friends. If you're not in the same faction, how would that work? For that raid, would you just get your radio removed? Obviously that would have to be the case, or you'd have communication on both sides, So I don't think that'd be fair. Maybe you don't lose karma if you're playing with someone from another faction, or maybe you lose karma at the start of the raid and then you don't lose further karma. I don't know how that would work. Or maybe you both have to be rogues before you squad up, or before you don't lose karma, or I don't know. Obviously, that is one problem with the system that they'd have to work out. And the second one is it could also be anti-PvP, just because people are, you know, working together more. I don't know if that'd be a bad thing or a good thing. I guess we'd have to see. Now, another downside is someone can easily mislead you without even harming you. For example, if you're in 3-story dorms, you hear someone next to you, you comm in the faction voice chat, hey, is there anyone in 3-story dorms? Somebody says yes. You walk out thinking that you're fine. Turns out to be the opposite faction, and you know, you just got fooled. That is an example of someone misleading you intentionally. But what if someone just doesn't know a call out and they're like, oh, are you on these rocks over there? Like you're on Lighthouse and there's 10,000 rocks, so you don't know what they're talking about. There can be miscommunication there. Or if someone just doesn't know a call out and you say, oh, I'm in 3-story dorms, and they're in 2-story dorms, and they think they don't know what 3-story dorms is. They just hear dorms and they're like, yes. So even though there is a faction voice chat, it still doesn't eliminate all the confusion. Another thing is, if people squad up in raid and they're, you know, fighting people, they're probably going to be using the squad voice chat, and so everybody's going to hear what they're saying. So maybe there could be a proximity, like, squad voice chat added, or maybe you can mute the voice chat if people are just, like, talking so much in that chat when they're in a fight or something. So those are an extra few downsides to the system. Now, how I think they'll end up adding the system if they go down the full-blown, if you kill your own faction, you lose karma, is that there is absolutely no radio system or any form of communication with your squad in the raid. It would basically just be, you see a guy and you hope it's a bear or a USEC. Obviously, as of now, in the game, it would be very hard to tell between bear and USEC. People in PvP as a PMC would not voice line first. I don't think it would go down the route of like how scabs are, because scabs, you're in there to loot, you're in there to get out. PMCs, you have quests to do, you have all this other stuff. You're probably going for PMC kills also. So I don't think it would work the same as scab karma, and I don't think they should implement it that way, which is why I think they should do something along the lines of the radio system. Obviously, they could add unique clothing or armbands that would help differentiate between the two sides. However, obviously, people could not wear them or whatever, and then you get confusion again. And I bet it would turn out that most people would have low PMC karma and get hunted by this new boss or whatever. I think most of the player base would probably hate this, because it'd be confusing and it wouldn't be fun trying to decipher which person is which. And if it limits you from certain traders or something, then I don't think people would really enjoy this system if they implement it in this way. So this is just some of the things that I wanted to go over, how they're probably going to add it to the next wipe, how I think it would be cool if they added PMC karma and with a radio system, and how they're probably going to implement it if they go down the full route of, if you kill your own faction, then you're going to lose rep. What are your comments on this? What do you guys think? I think some people have some really good ideas of how certain systems can work, so I'd like to hear what you guys think, and thank you for watching.